We have a bit of bombshell that happened yesterday on the show as a Fox Sports play-by-play announcer, national guy, talked about West Virginia's NIL situation, and it totally blew me away.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, guys. Tough day today. I get it. Decided we'd do something a little more positive tonight. I can't sleep. So we're going to do a little Paul After Dark. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day, the Mountaineers, of course. I think when it comes to next year, obviously there's a lot going on this year that makes sense that pertains to next year, no doubt. And, it would be nice to know what we had when it comes to not only retaining talent, but going out and getting more talent. And I think we've all speculated. We've heard Rich Rod talk about it. We've heard that we're going to meet the cap, and we've heard Rich Rod say something about, if I could have X amount outside the cap, et cetera. And then I had Connor Onion on because he called the Houston versus West Virginia football game on the national Fox network, right? Then he called the Pitt West Virginia basketball game. He was the play guy on national TV for that game. So those guys get exclusive meetings with the coaches, right? All week leading up to the game usually, or at least a few days before if it's the road game for the other team like Rich Rod in Houston there. But usually it's a couple of days of meetings that they go through. And, I don't think that he I don't think he realized what he said. Not saying that he's a very smart guy, but what he revealed was only could come from knowledge from he doesn't cover West Virginia. So this only could have came from knowledge of these conversations that they would have had, right? So I'm going to play a clip from yesterday's show, and it's not speculatory. This is happening. So take it how you want to take it, but I think it's worth a show, and then we can speculate a little bit on, hey, what do we do with all that? Let's go.
Explain to us how unbelievable it was and how he had never had a year like this. But I do think, the financial investment into the roster is going to go up big time.
Yeah, exponentially.
More than double, more than triple next year.
Right.
So, and to think that is the fourth or maybe fifth best quarterback that you have is pretty impressive that he was sitting waiting his turn. So I think
that's pretty cool. I think, like I said, I think that could probably only be gleaned from conversations had with the staff, right? What else would he be drawing from to be saying that? And why would he speculate so crazy if he didn't know any better? We heard Rich Rod say the other day, 10, 13, somewhere in there outside the cap, NIL, and up to the cap, right? Which puts West Virginia in that 25 to 28 range. We know that West Virginia did not spend $5 million of their money for the cap. It's public knowledge. Hoppy Kirchhoff said it. Others have said it multiple times now at this point. So you start adding things together. They're going to have the full cap shared next year. And let's just round that off at 15 million. Could be less, could be more. Probably going to be a little less maybe, but just to make it an even number, we'll go 15. And then you add the 5 million, and then I'm assuming you're probably going to get 2/3 of that. So let's say you get, I don't know, 2.5 million of that or 3, whatever. And obviously there's a lot of room within the margins. I get that, but we're just having fun with this. So that puts you at around 17 or 18. And then Rich Rodriguez said 10 to 13 million, right? So that puts you anywhere from 25 to 30 million in NIL. And that makes sense. If it's going to double or triple, if it's, he didn't say double, he said more than double, more than triple, right? He didn't say, in my head, after the fact, I thought he said maybe double, maybe triple. Listening back to it, obviously now, I mean, I knew before I played this on the show, but, listening back to it earlier today when I was researching this, he said more than double, more than triple. So I was like, wait, what? Did he really say that? And, I reached out to him and asked him about it. He didn't respond. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. He didn't respond. I wanted to ask him for clarity on it. And I don't know if maybe he thought, well, maybe I just better not say anything. And I understand that, he probably didn't want to, be prodded. And I only asked him one question. So I wasn't going to keep bugging him about it. So maybe he'll respond, after this or something. But, I mean, he said it on my show, so it's not like I'm revealing some secret here. And I just thought, you know what? That's really, really cool. So it's pretty mind-blowing if that's the case, right? Because you have to assume that what I was going to say is this team probably spent right around 9, you would say, 8 maybe, on this year's team based on the players that we have. But, we didn't get but like 1 or 2 really splash players. Jamori Robinson, Michael Coates, maybe a Ty Edwards. I don't know. I don't know how much they spent on the guy like Ty Edwards because he had those issues. And certainly we didn't think he was going to be the second coming. And he only had 1 good game anyway. So not that he couldn't have more, but I mean, it's not like he had a bunch of good games. So yeah, I mean, obviously this is a roster filled with lower level guys, which were pretty good at the lower level they were at, if not very good in a lot of cases. And then they went out and got a couple high level guys, and they got a guy like Jalen Henderson from Texas A&M. But for the most part, this roster is filled up with, I would consider to be just average players that you went out and got. Maybe some are a little better than average. Definitely starters in a lot of cases, and definitely guys that are probably role players on a good team. Like the entire offensive line this year, except a couple players. So for those of you that are just getting here, we'll play this clip one more time so you can hear it. This is Fox play-by-play announcer Connor Onions. He did a game with Robert Griffin III. He does football games with Robert Griffin III. He does the basketball games with another guy. I can't remember his name. But yeah, he's like Fox's new big thing. So he's privy to more information than just about anybody outside of maybe like Tony Caridi or somebody. You know what I mean? As far as West Virginia goes, whenever he was there. Let's play it one more time.
Explained to us how unbelievable it was and how he had never had a year like this. But I do think, the financial investment into the roster is going to go up big time.
Yeah, exponentially.
More than double, more than triple next year.
Right.
So, and to think that is the 4th or maybe 5th best quarterback that you have.
So obviously in the moment I was thinking in my head, like I wanted to put him on the spot so bad, but then I thought, it's my fault. I should have dug into that when it happened. I was honestly just really happy to be talking to the guy because, somebody like me, like I've always wanted to be a play-by-play guy, and to be talking to a guy from Fox, the national guy that just called our games, it's a little surreal for me. So I was adjusting to that in real time, just being totally transparent with you guys. I mean, I talk to people that are quote unquote celebrities all the time now, but they don't always come on my show or anything like that. I don't know. It was just, for me, I was just enjoying the conversation, and maybe I missed an opportunity to prod a little more there. But I think what we can do next, guys, is let's have fun with this. And, let's just say it's 27, right? That's right around what Texas Tech spent this year. West Virginia could not only flip the roster around, but you're talking about a Big 12 championship contender in year 2 if you get that kind of investment. And I'm not even afraid to say that. And I think most of you would agree. So Let's talk about this next because this is a big news. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now with FanDuel, guys, we got to tell you, it's a pretty cool thing they've got going on is the NBA is back and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, right? That's right. We love talking about it. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to find a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets. Everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when you're making that late game push. Right now, FanDuel is giving away $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You can't win if you don't play, so head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's segment 2. We're back. All right, so obviously – I thought, you know what? I've got some takeaways from this. So let me do some takeaways from this conversation and this number, which is, in my opinion, anywhere between 25 to 30 million, and which is just totally, I got to be honest, that just blows my mind that we have a chance at that. You know, maybe what'll come out that we don't, and that, you know, but for now, let's have fun with it. So, Texas Tech territory, right? That's my first takeaway. Tripling from 9 to 10 to 25 to 30 puts West Virginia in the same NIL spending bracket as Texas Tech and, you know, BYU maybe in the conference. That's the difference between mid-tier and winning bidding wars over the biggest schools. Elite talent becomes realistic is my second takeaway. 27 means 5-figure high school deals. It means, well, I don't know if high school guys, but 5-figure portal deals, probably 6-figure high school deals. And, you know, you're going to get all Big 12 caliber transfers, all SEC, all anything you want if you've got that kind of money. And you could just, all you got to do is put it right into your offensive line and defensive line, just like Texas Tech did, and a couple linebackers here and there, a couple corners. You don't, obviously, you just invest in your offensive line, defensive line first. And if you keep the skill talent you already have this year on the roster, you're gonna be really good next year. Cam Vaughn on a competent team is an elite number 1 or number 2 receiver. Obviously, we lose Weimer, who's really come on strong, and I would love to have him back. But I think Gerard Bowie showed some flashes today as a guy that could be a pretty good slot. I think Gallagher would probably take another step again. Like, we have some players to build around. Cray and Livingston, maybe you're happy with them, maybe you're not. But certainly, hopefully you are, and you could just get 3 really good guys to place alongside of them. I mean, it's insane, dude, what could really happen. And then, you know what? You say, well, you know what? Jaheim White is a little bit too injury-ridden. Maybe you let him go or you keep him, either one. I mean, he's had back-to-back injuries. Ty Edwards has got an injury. You know, maybe you keep them and you go out and buy, because you got to have a bunch of running backs in the system anyway. I'm not saying either answer is wrong, by the way. We're just talking. Obviously, I would be excited about Jaheim coming back and healthy, but I would also be excited if they decided to go out and just get an elite guy. You know, anybody you want, you know, if you got this kind of money, you can just about get. So, you know, you can literally just pick a guy that fits you the best, mentality, everything. So that, and then I think also on the defense, you go get that defensive line that West Virginia just hasn't had recently to give Zach Alley that SEC caliber defensive line and linebacker room that you've always really needed to compete in the Big 12. It's to the point to where you could do that with that kind of money. So I think the portal retention, as far as guys like, you know, we talked about Scotty Fox Jr. He's going to be a guy you're going to have to pay a little bit if you want him to stick around. Scotty Fox is going to have people coming after him, y'all. At this point now, no matter what happens next week, Scotty Fox is putting up on tape as a true freshman to get really paid. So, you know, he's going to get he's going to get $1 million plus probably. Or, well, maybe not quite that much, but close. I would say he'll probably get high six figures. And who knows, if you beat Texas Tech, you can really turn that momentum into something big for somebody. So, you don't think he's thinking about that? I mean, he just put 330 up on Arizona State. He put 300 up on TCU. He ran for almost 100 yards and 2 scores against Houston. Like, he's really balled out this year. Scotty has really impressed us all, I think. And he's made freshman mistakes, but you can live with those because it's not a talent issue. It's I'm young and I don't know everything that's going on yet issue. Take that all day long. If he was a redshirt freshman, Scotty Fox would probably be tearing it up right now. So, yeah, there's a lot to love there. Number 4 takeaway is you can literally revamp your entire roster. 27 million is a full-scale reset button from the standpoint of, obviously, you're going to keep some players. Don't get me wrong, but it's a reset button from the standpoint of you can let a bunch of guys go and bring a bunch of guys in and really flip this roster in a good way to where you're like, okay, super talented roster. It's truly incredible what that kind of money can do for you. And then last takeaway is I think you would be a Big 12 title contender. I've got it written down like this. Big 12 title contender status activated. You combine Rich Rod's up-tempo system, funded with some depth, and also you're not hoping for upsets in this situation. You're going to be expected to compete for Arlington. The gap between West Virginia and the conference elite shrinks literally overnight if you get this kind of money. And it's, here's the thing. One person says it, it's like, okay, that's speculation. 2 people say it, okay, he fed into that. It's an echo chamber. 3 people say it, that's a pattern. 4 people say it, I'm starting to believe it. 5 people say it, guys, we're going to have a lot more money next year than we have this year. Pat McAfee's going to make sure of it. You don't think everybody that's stuck their neck out for this Rich Rod hire doesn't understand how big this upcoming year is? I know they do. And sure, could a couple guys maybe not give as much, and could they lose on some of these? Sure, but the way this team has played down the stretch, there's no reason not to invest. If you watch this team struggle for those 5 games and then turned it on and then you turned it off for a game and came back and watched the last 3 games or something, whatever, let's say you didn't even watch the UCF game. And you're like, holy cow, I'm glad I didn't watch that. And you're like, fine, okay, I'll come back and watch Houston or TCU. And then you're like, wow, that was a lot better. I'll watch Houston next week. And oh my God, they beat Houston. And now they beat Colorado. And oh my God, they should have beat Arizona State, last year's conference champion that barely lost to Texas in the playoff. They got a lot of those guys back and funded for a lot more. Now they play Texas Tech next week. Can they actually compete with those guys? Or are they going to get smacked off the face of the earth, as Jackson likes to say? We'll see. But, either way, I think it's there. Like, Rich Rod has turned this thing where I know people were mad about today, and I get that. But it's pretty clear that this team turned a corner this year. Have we played some of those earlier games now? The Kansas game, absolutely a winnable game now, obviously. There are a couple other games that are more winnable. Ohio, for sure. You definitely beat Ohio now. It's crazy how much better we are than Ohio is now. They've only won 6 games. So, it's frustrating. Obviously, we were the worst version of ourselves in that game. You lost Nico. You lost Jaheim. You know how much our offense changed when that happened? It's just crazy, man. So this is a big deal. And I think at the end of the day, West Virginia is investing in this football program because you literally – the window is so short and so tight that if you don't, you could literally never be good at football again. It's batten down the hatches, and you've chosen your coach for better for worse, which is Rich Rod. And people are going to talk about some decisions he made today. We're going to talk about that next. But you give him the resources to actually be what he wants to be without being held back like he was at Michigan. I know people love to throw the Michigan thing up. By year 2, they were trying to run him out of there. And there's a book written on it called 3 and Out. He got 3 years. And in that era, no coach could turn a roster in 3 years, which is why Brady Hoke, who was one of their worst coaches ever, won a Sugar Bowl the year after he left. They won with all his players, including Denard Robertson, because you couldn't even transfer them. So I do believe that if they did just let him do his thing, like I talked to a couple of their players a few years back, they were fighting against it all. The culture changed, the way he coaches, the hard-edged nature. That's just not. They were plotting 3 yards in a cloud of dust type teams, not spread option tempo. Nobody believed in that. So just saying, I don't think Rich Rod's truly ever had resources than the trust too. At Michigan, I mean, maybe you had some resources, but you didn't get to see it through. Right here, you're going to get to. And I'm excited about the future of this team with him at the helm, especially if you get that kind of money, as he just said, which is just nuts. More than double, more than triple. I mean, what does that look like? It's got to be $28 million. It's crazy. It's crazy of me to even consider that we could do that, but he said it. So let's go to break on that note and talk about the poll results. I put out a poll. Everybody wanted to know today, what do you think? Who do you think? Everybody wants to assign blame, right? Whose fault is it? What did the poll say about Rich Rod? Is it his fault we lost today? Next. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For West Virginia, obviously Harlan Obioha delivered in a big way. Obviously, it was the 8-for-8 field goals. And, he almost went 9 for 9. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, I don't think this is going to be a fluke for him. Harlan Obioha is on a streak. And just like Harlan's on a streak for West Virginia, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including 100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash, where the terms apply. Promo code through 11/18. All right, we back. Here we go. Let me put this up here for you guys to see. I did a poll earlier and asked the question, who do you blame for the Arizona State loss? And this is the poll. Rich Rodriguez's play calls, short yardage woes, discipline, or Arizona State just beat West Virginia. 15% of you, and there's only 130 votes. It was only up for like an hour or two. 4 hours. Arizona State just beat West Virginia. It's 15%. Discipline is 6% of the vote. Short yardage woes, 58.5% of the vote. And Rich Rodriguez's play calls got almost 20% of the vote. So, I think all those are pretty fair. I don't think it was Rich Rodgers' play calls either. I said it earlier in the show. Look, at the end of the day, your 4-win football team on the road against Arizona State, the reigning conference champion, you got to take your shots. And it's easy for people to point back after the fact and say you were dumb. If you get it, you're a genius. If you don't get it, you're dumb. It's just how the game works. People are emotional and all that. You're down to your 4th and 5th string quarterbacks and running backs. Like, you're playing with house money anyways. I mean, do you want to win the game? Absolutely. But Rich Rod has said openly multiple times, if I'm inside the 40 on my side of the field with 4th down, I'm most always going for it. He's not apologetic about it. And I don't think he should be. And I think it was an indictment. After the game, he talked about, we couldn't get this much. And I think it was an indictment against, the offensive line room and Jack McNell. And I had a source call me today and say, look, I already did a video on this, by the way, but, he was just kind of reiterating to me like, yeah, if there was any chance, because they've been playing better, if he had made some hay here recently, today's performance kind of was a setback for McNell. If he had any chance of retaining this job, probably gone, considering Texas Tech and one of the best defensive lines in all of college football coming up next week. Good luck trying to outbeat them guys. They've got a bunch of just ridiculously talented defensive linemen, and Romello Heights, one of the best pass rushers in the country. And obviously they've got the kid out of Stanford, David Bailey, who's got 11 sacks or whatever it is. So, they just killing it over there on defense. I wouldn't be shocked if West Virginia didn't have a really tough time moving it on them next week. Now, the crowd will be a factor. I think we'll fill the stadium up. They'll want to come watch a top 5 team play. And let's see what we do. Obviously, I'm not going to count us all the way out, but Texas Tech is really tough. The only way we can beat them is if we get to the quarterback, in my opinion. If it's anything else, if everything's just hat on a hat, they're probably going to beat us more reps than not. Now, we do get an off week to prepare for them, and there's something to that. I do think that we need the rest. But similar to Arizona State, last time we had one, we came out really rusty and just did not play well. So hopefully they can figure out a way to fix that this time around. But I think this team is good enough to hang with Texas Tech for a little bit. Arizona State beat Texas Tech, as we talked about, but that was with their best talent available. So, if Jordan Tyson is available today and Levitt's available today, we probably get beat pretty good. But, we would have had to score those touchdowns early instead of messing up, which we did. So I've got a few people texting here asking on my cell phone, play the video again. People that I talk to all the time. So I will play the video one more time from Connor Onion, and you guys can give me your opinions on that. But like I said, this is for fun, but I do think what he said here is significant.
Explained to us how unbelievable it was and how he had never had a year like this. But I do think, the financial investment into the roster is going to go up big time.
Yeah. Exponentially.
Yeah. More than double, more than triple next year.
Right. So, like I said, do I think that it's possible that he's wrong on this? Yeah, it could be possible. I'm not going to sit and pretend like it couldn't be wrong, but I don't get that sense. I think, like I said earlier in the show, this is a guy that sat down with Rich Rodriguez and company leading into the Houston game and had personal one-on-one interviews with every coach that they needed to for the leading up to that game, so that they could get as familiar with the teams as possible. It's like speed dating whenever you're a play-by-play guy. Like, you've got to learn each team and every week, and you do features on players, and so and obviously you ask questions that aren't going to be publicized, like, what is your next year going to look like? How do you feel about it? NIL, this crazy NIL. And so when he's on here telling me something he heard them say, right, which is more than double, more than triple, I think it's extremely positive. Absolutely, Coos. I'm glad it made you happy. Feel free to cover it, obviously, if you need to. I'll send you the video if you need it. Because it's an exciting thing to hear, right? And this is a national guy, so I put a lot of stock into it. It's not like it's just no offense to anybody, but it's not like I just had another guy that's just a plain old podcaster on. So I get it. There's less credibility with that. This is a guy that literally sat down with our, not only Ross Hodge and company, but Rich Rodriguez and company. So yeah, a lot of excitement there. If we can get to, obviously we know that everybody's going to spend more next year. At least you assume Texas Tech and company should, but it doesn't matter to me. If you give Rich Rod what Texas Tech had this past year close, thank you. Thank you. I'll take that, sir, for sure. I will definitely take that. Rich, I'm going to do this comment here, Coos. He says 13 million in rev share plus 3.5 in NIL is 16.5 million. Times 2 is 33 million. I'm not sure I buy that. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think that I I don't know that that's what we spent or not. Now maybe you had a different perspective. And look, there's so much with it. It's really hard to keep track of. I was under the impression that Texas Tech spent 28 million with the cap, but I'll ask Chris Level about that again. Maybe it was without it. Maybe it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. If that's the case, then that definitely does change things a little bit. But certainly still top 5 in the Big 12 if you can get to the numbers we're talking about here. So, it's significant. It's competitive. It's everything you need it to be. You can get you an O-line. There's no way they can prevent you from doing that if you get that much money. You can get you a D-line. Like, you can really upgrade where it matters and just retain what you got. That's my point here. All you got to do really, I mean, look, I'm not a head coach and I'm not a GM, but just from a layman's perspective, what we have on the roster right now is pretty good in some areas, like a Cam Vaughn, like a Rodney Gallagher, like, some other the receivers that I think will get better. And then obviously you're going to bring in 1 or 2 as well. But, you've got at least 2 guys. Maybe you only got 1, but, you either go get 3 or 4 new offensive linemen. Maybe you only need 2. I don't know. But in that realm somewhere, elite, can't miss offensive linemen. And then you get 2 more to back those guys up, right? Or 3 more to back those guys up. That's what you do. And you just get them all to compete. And they're all Power 4 players. And it's hard to keep them off the field. And you just pay them so much that they got to come. Like, hopefully you can do that. And then on the defensive line, you do the same exact thing. And you give them elite sideline to sideline linebackers that can cover, right? That's what you got to have for Zach Alley's defense. And then just retain what fills in the gaps. Like I said, Cam Vaughn, Jaheim White, Ty Edwards. We just run it back with those guys and just get us an O-line. And hell, I'll even take Scotty Fox back. But like I said the other day, if you really want to go out and get an elite quarterback, I'm not going to be mad. Like, obviously it would break my heart for Scotty Fox after the way he's growing right in front of our eyes. But do we have time to wait for him to grow up again? He's going to have to grow even a lot more next year. Like, his first starts next year are still going to be not ideal. Like, by the time we get to our first big games, he's still going to be really young and have a lot of kinks to work out. A lot. So, I think he's going to learn a lot. A full off season is going to help and all that. But you've got to weigh that against, could you bring a guy in that knows a system similar to this? There are going to be plenty of transfers. So it's an interesting conversation. I think you do both. I think you try to keep Scotty and you just keep bringing a guy that's really good to compete with him. And if Scotty beats him out, Scotty beats him out. You take the L with the money and he's there as your backup if you need it. And vice versa with Scotty. If he doesn't win the job, you take the L on what you paid Scotty, and then you've got a great backup. It's the same thing. And then everywhere else I'm pretty good with. Obviously, we're losing a bunch of seniors on the secondary. I think you've proven that you can do a similar thing because Coates and Chambers and company played pretty well. Like, it's not like they're not the ones that getting beat. It's really not. It's the middle of the field. Our linebackers can't cover guys. That's really where one of our biggest problems is. So, thanks for joining in. So hopefully this goes to, comes to fruition and we all get to see this happen because I think we all deserve it. Coos especially, and everybody else that's watching, that you are fanatical like I am about this. We live and die with it. Literally stressed to death over it. Like it's a paycheck and we're going to lose our electric and house if we don't get it. Like those kind of feelings, like it's not always healthy, but I love it because when it's good, it's good, right? Can't nothing beat it. I think that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for joining in and let me talk with you late. I know it's late. If you can, like the video, please share it out, repost it, the whole thing. I put it out on X. And I'm going to eat some white chicken chili. So that's what I'm going to do. White chicken chili. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll talk some basketball tomorrow, obviously, and let's have some fun, man. Obviously, a big day tomorrow on the recruiting trip for West Virginia. Miles Sadler, 5-star elite point guard. Could he choose the Mountaineers tomorrow? There's a good chance he will. We'll talk about that then. Good night.